tacos get people pregnant. And so anyway, when I used to have this job at Taco Bell, I would get like I made like $150 a week or something like that. And so every 2 weeks, I would get this massive check of like $300. And like any other teenager, I would go straight to the bank and cash that sucker, and I would have a big pocket full of money. And it was like, just got paid. It's Friday night, right? So I mean, and I felt so rich. I remember how the dopamine would hit, from getting that paycheck, and I would be so excited, and I would have all this money, and I would feel so powerful and just rich, and I was just flipping money. I had all these 20s, right? So it wasn't nothing like, oh, $20 here, $5 there, whatever. And it was the weirdest thing. Every single time I would just run out of money. Right. At first, it's like the first weekend you're balling. The rest of the next week you're doing okay. And then by the next weekend or early, like maybe by Monday of the following week, my money would just be like gone. And every time I'd be like, damn, where did my money go? What happened? And that's when I started to learn about financial consciousness. The reason the money was gone was because I would spend money like a crackhead because the money would make me high. That dopamine rush would cause me to sort of lose track of my spending, and I would just spend, spend, spend. And next thing you know, I would be broke again. And I didn't understand how that would happen. And it was one of those things where it made me also think. I remember reading about drug addicts, and another thing that induces a lot of dopamine is stuff like cocaine, like crack and whatever, right? And there was a guy who talked about what would happen when he would go and use crack. He said, I would go to the crack house, and every time I would say to myself, I'm only going to be here for a few minutes. And he said, I would come out like 3 days later. Right. And that made me sort of think about that in terms of things that in our lives that give us that natural high. It may not be crack. Crack may not be your drug of choice. Let's hope that it's not. But there are other things that induce dopamine, like money and love, sex. Does that sound familiar? Right. And when these things happen, when you get high, your consciousness does drop. And when your consciousness drops, we make mistakes, right? Where our awareness is kind of gone. And so that experience of getting those Taco Bell paychecks and watching that money disappear really made me think about ways to kind of prevent that, right? Like knowing how to not walk into the crack house so that you don't end up sitting there 3 days, right? Just accepting the fact that the alcoholic doesn't need to be in the bar at all. He didn't need to walk past the bar. So what that might mean is financially, you may need to do some things that are going to protect you from yourself, right? So one good thing you could do that would be, I think, very straightforward and easy to do would be to, when you open up your brokerage account, if you don't have one yet, have some automatic deposits go into the account where the money gets taken out before you even see that it's there, right? And this is, in my view, this is where you're using a lack of consciousness to your benefit, right? You're literally tricking yourself. You're pulling the money out, and the money's going into this other account. It's very hard for you to get to it. It's very conscious, difficult exercise for you to, reach out and log in and make a withdrawal from the account, right? So it's kind of like over here, like make it hard for you to get it back, where you have to spend a couple of days like waiting for the money. What that does is that pushes you to think about it. For example, I always joke and said, wouldn't it be crazy if there was a law that said that you had to like file like a form, fill out a form, and wait 2 days, have a 2 day waiting period before you can have sex with anybody, right? Like literally, if you want to sleep with somebody and you're hot and you're in the moment, and someone says, "Oh, great, we got to fill out the form," and once we fill out the form, we'll get we'll get approval and we'll be able to have sex on Tuesday, right? Think about how many fewer kids would exist if you didn't make the decision right there in the moment. Like imagine if people literally had to wait 2 days and think about it. A lot of people would be like, I thought about it and I realized that wouldn't be such a good decision, right? So, and that was why he was filling your glass up with wine and everything else, right? Because it's like, I want your consciousness low so you'll make a snap decision. The same thing happens when it comes to spending money. Corporations do the exact same thing. They just have rules. Like if you ever go and the best salespeople I've ever seen are like those timeshare people. And those timeshare people, I'm not sure what their rules are, but I bet you one of their rules is don't let the customer leave, because you need to get them right while they're in the moment, get them to go ahead and sign that contract, that because that there's a high probability that they're going to have buyer's remorse later on. Okay. So and that's why I don't even sit down with timeshare people.